Most car legends die when the world stops needing them. The Toyota Land Cruiser did something stranger. It kept changing while convincing the world that it never changed at all. In 1951, Toyota built a four-wheel drive machine for Japan's National Police Reserve. Toyota lost the contract. 75 years later, the same name sits on rugged work trucks, luxury flagships, practical family off-roaders, and a brand-new compact FJ. Toyota says the Land Cruiser family has now passed roughly 12.4 million sales across more than 190 countries and regions. That number includes the related Lexus LX and GX, but the scale is still remarkable. So how did a failed government proposal become one of the most trusted names in the car world? And why, in 2026, does the Land Cruiser still refuse to die? The first vehicle was called the Toyota Jeep BJ. It used a modified truck chassis and a large six-cylinder petrol engine. Toyota wanted the police reserve contract, but the reserve chose Mitsubishi's licensed Jeep instead. It had the stronger track record. For a young Toyota, that should have been the end of the story. Instead, the BJ was redirected towards civilian use. Toyota then demonstrated its capability on Mount Fuji, reaching the sixth station at around 2,700 meters. Police departments began adopting it, volume production followed, and in 1954, the Jeep name was replaced with Land Cruiser. The origin matters because the first Land Cruiser did not become famous by winning on paper. It became famous by proving useful after it lost. The 20 Series arrived in 1955 and pushed the vehicle into export markets. Then came the shape many people still picture when they hear the name, the 40 Series. Introduced in 1960, the J40 was simple, upright, and adaptable. Short wheelbase, long wheelbase, hard top, soft top, pickup, fire engine. Toyota did not build one perfect version, it built a platform that could be changed for the job. The J40 remained in the line for 24 years. That kind of life cycle is almost impossible in the modern car industry. But the real trick came next. In 1984, Toyota replaced the J40 with the 70 Series. And more than 4 decades later, the 70 still exists. It has been updated. Engines changed. The front suspension moved from leaf springs to coils in 1999. The nose was redesigned in 2007. Safety equipment and transmissions evolved. But Toyota protected the heavy-duty branch instead of forcing it to become a luxury SUV. Japanese sales ended in 2004, while overseas production continued. Demand brought it back to Japan for a limited run in 2014. Then, in 2023, Toyota brought it back again as a regular model. That is not nostalgia alone. In remote work, mining, agriculture, emergency support and long-distance travel, a vehicle can be infrastructure. Toyota's own language is careful. The mission is to go where people need to go and return safely. But the Land Cruiser name became far bigger than a work truck, and that created a problem. Buyers wanted comfort as well as survival. Toyota solved it by splitting the family. The heavy-duty line became the 70. The station wagon line moved through the 55, 60, 80, 100, 200, and now the 300 series. A lighter, more manageable branch evolved through the Prado models and became today's 250 series. The 80 series, launched in 1989, pushed the wagon toward luxury. The 100 series added a V8 and independent front suspension on the wagon. The 200 series added more comfort, a stiffer separate frame and cruise control for very low-speed off-road driving. The 300 became the technology flagship. Same badge, different jobs. This is the part most indestructible Toyota stories miss. There is no single magical Land Cruiser engine, suspension or body shape that survived unchanged for 75 years. What survived was the engineering priority. Frames remained central. Off-road geometry mattered, controls had to work under stress. Regional engines and bodies reflected regional use. Repairs and serviceability were treated as part of the design, not an inconvenience for somebody later. On the 250, Toyota talked openly about visibility, short overhangs, high-mounted lighting, and even a segmented front bumper designed to make damage easier to repair. That is not glamorous engineering. It is engineering shaped by consequences. The road also kept rewriting the car. Toyota says Land Cruisers were developed from actual customer use around the world. Desert heat, mud, salt, ice, overloaded tracks and long distances exposed weaknesses that a clean test route could hide. That feedback loop is probably the closest thing the Land Cruiser has to a secret. But reputation creates its own danger. An old Land Cruiser is not immortal. Age still attacks rubber, wiring, cooling systems, seals and steel. A famous badge cannot reverse neglected maintenance. Off-road modifications can improve one job and damage another. An odometer cannot tell you how many corrugated roads, water crossings, or overloaded kilometers a truck has seen. And strong resale demand can make buyers pay a premium for the story before checking the vehicle. The correct buyer question is not, are Land Cruisers reliable? It is, what happened to this Land Cruiser? Verify the exact series and engine. Inspect the chassis and body carefully. Test the four-wheel drive hardware. Review service records. Understand every modification. Check open recalls by VIN. And use a specialist who knows the specific generation, because a J40, a V8 J200 and a hybrid J250 do not share one inspection checklist. Reliability is a reputation earned by the model line. Condition belongs to the individual vehicle. Which brings us to 2026. Toyota has just added another branch, the Land Cruiser FJ. This is not the discontinued retro-styled FJ Cruiser. It is a new, smaller Land Cruiser for Japan, joining the 70, 250 and 300. Toyota gave it a ladder frame derived from the IMV family, a naturally aspirated 2.7-litre petrol engine, a 6-speed automatic, and a wheelbase 270 mm shorter than the 250. Toyota also says its wheel articulation is equivalent to the 70 series. That specification will not satisfy everybody. Some will want more power. Some will miss the old diesels. Some will say a compact, approachable Land Cruiser weakens the badge. But that argument has followed the Land Cruiser for decades. The wagon became too luxurious. The Prado became too comfortable. The 100 abandoned a solid front axle on some versions. The 300 replaced the V8. Each time the family changed without deleting the heavy-duty branch that carried the original mission. And that is why the Land Cruiser refuses to die. Not because everyone lasts forever. Not because Toyota found one perfect formula in 1951. It survives because Toyota separated the shape from the purpose. The shape could become a truck, a luxury SUV, a family off-roader, or a compact FJ. The purpose remained trust when the road becomes uncertain. The first Land Cruiser lost the job it was built to win. Then it spent 75 years becoming the vehicle people choose when losing is not an option. That is bigger than reliability. That is identity. Subscribe to Speed TV 21 for researched car stories, buyer warnings, and engine legends. And tell us which Land Cruiser belongs in the next deep dive. The J40, the 70 series, the 80, or the V8 J200.